You would think writing a fight scene was an easy task until you attempt to do one. I mean, just look at the mess they made with the 2010 live-action remake of Avatar.
Leave him alone!
Whereas movies like Arcane, Kung Fu Panda, and others gave us iconic fight sequences. But what did these guys do differently to stand out? How did they write their fights into legend? To write a good fight scene people want to see, you need to note 4 things, with the first being the why. Why are the characters fighting in the first place? Is it to get the dragon scroll, to kill an arrogant cat, or to reclaim your lost throne? The audience has to feel that there's something real to lose. It doesn't matter where you are fighting. Inside water, in the air, on the moon, a fight scene without purpose is mostly noise and vibe. You may enjoy the choreography, sound, and graphics, but it is quickly forgotten. An example of a fight sequence with the why factor already established is that between Simba and Scar. When Simba finally returns to the Pride Lands after his exile, he is ready to resist. And the reason is rooted in the fact that he's battling for his father's legacy and the survival of Pride Rock. The tension is sky high, even before the first strike, because the stakes have been established from the very beginning.
No.
That look of fearlessness and determination on his face is justified because of his many whys, which we, the audience, have been a party to all through the movie. The fight is already deeply personal, but it takes an even more dramatic turn when Scar reveals the truth about Mufasa's death. Up until this point, Simba believed he was responsible for his father's demise, a belief that had haunted him for years. But after Scar confesses, Simba gains a new reason to fight. The motivation shifts from reclaiming the throne to avenging his father's murder. This fresh motivation gave him the energy to climb back up the cliff and pin Scar to the ground. Then he forced him to confess to every animal present.
I killed Mufasa.
This pivotal moment is the trigger for the larger battle, which involves every animal. The hyenas attacked because they wanted to continue living in the Pride Lands. The other lions wanted revenge against the one who killed their precious ruler. Timon and Pumbaa wanted to help their friend. Every animal had a reason to be a part of that fight. They weren't just out there throwing paws and biting hides for no damn reason. But there's something else. What motivates a character can also affect what they are willing to do to win. Simba's motivation was never to kill to regain all he had lost. Therefore, during his confrontation with Scar, he offered him a chance to step down as king and run away.
Run. Run away, Scar, and never return.
Scar's motivation, on the other hand, is to continue being king by any means possible, and that includes brutality and murder. Because of this, he had no qualms about burning Simba's face with hot coal, thus extending the fight. In the end, Simba, who was still not motivated by the crudeness of his murder and savagery, fought Scar with no intention to kill him. When he pushed him off the cliff, it was out of survival instincts. The hyenas then turn on Scar themselves, and that too makes sense, because their motivation has shifted. They finally see Scar for what he is, a manipulator who used them and then threw them under the bus. The whole fight flows naturally because it's built on a foundation of reasons. Not having a reason to fight is exactly how to not write a fight sequence, because it leaves the audience asking, okay, what the hell just happened? Why are they fighting? The very first episode of Invincible gives us a perfect example of this. When Omni-Man attacks the Guardians of the Globe, there's no build-up, no dialogue, no explanation. It was gory, brutal, swift, and shocking. We are as surprised as the Guardians, and at first, we think maybe it is a drill until Red Rush's head bursts open. After that, there's no musical score. just bones cracking, body tissues rupturing, and mouths opening and closing in both surprise and pain. And just like that, the fight was over, with an unconscious Omni-Man and a bloody mess of dead Guardians. Then the question in everyone's mind was,
why? Why?
The horror is heightened because we don't know what drove him to do it. Why would Omni-Man kill his own allies? Why would he slaughter the very people who protect the planet with him? That lack of explanation creates its own kind of tension, a mystery layered with dread. The audience is unsettled because the fight comes out of nowhere.
Is he a villain? What the hell is going on?
And the only thing left to cling to is the need for answers. Later in the season, we get those answers. Omni-Man's true mission is revealed, and suddenly the massacre makes sense. The Guardians had to go because they were the only ones strong enough to challenge him. The fact that they pushed him to the point of unconsciousness when even the world's strongest weapons barely scratched him shows how dangerous they were to his plan. The delayed why turns the fight into a key moment in the story rather than a random burst of violence. But if that motivation had never been explained, the fight would have lost its weight. It would have been shocking, yes, but hollow. The horror would not linger because it would not mean anything. This is why it is important to introduce the character's motivation or their why. It gives your audience a reason to care about the fight. Motivation equals stake, and stakes are the currency of engagement. But the why is not enough to write a great fight scene. If it were, the first live-action remake of Avatar: The Last Airbender might have performed well. We all know that the 2010 The Last Airbender was a complete dud for so many reasons. However, one of the major issues was the lack of personality in the characters, who felt flat and lifeless. Their weak personalities, lack of character growth, or even depth led to very poor fight sequences. The performances as a whole were stiff and grim compared to the lively spirit of the animated series. But worse was how fake and horrible the fighting scenes looked.
Leave him alone!
This awful display of fighting was in part due to a lack of personality, which is the who of a person. It is the unique traits, feelings, and behaviors that characterize an individual and differentiate them from others. Every great fight is written to reflect that who. But the fighters from that scene, both hero and bad guy, lacked that who factor. They were just a bunch of poor actors that nobody cared about, just out there waiting for their cue to strike or defend. Compare this to the original animated series, which is a masterclass in how to infuse personality into action. Take the epic clash in the Crystal Catacombs. Aang and Katara's emotions and personality drive every choice and action. Aang enters the battle with a lie weighing on him. He hasn't fully mastered the Avatar state. His heart is tied to Katara, a connection that gives him strength but also holds him back. However, when they are overwhelmed by dozens of Dai Li agents joining Zuko and Azula, he knew it was time to let go.
The only way is to let her go.
I'm sorry, Katara.
This could have turned the tide of the fight, but then came something every great fight scene needs: an unexpected threat or obstacle. Before Aang could reach the full Avatar state, Azula, who is a ruthless, power-drunk, and fearless firebender, strikes him down with lightning. Katara, on the other hand, fights with a mix of resilience and emotion. She's angry at Zuko for his betrayal, but her love for Aang is what truly defines her actions. She keeps fighting despite being outmatched, and when Aang falls, her grief and love are what drive her to try and save him. A character's personality will always affect their fighting intensity and the choices they make during a battle. Indeed, every decision made during the fight, even Uncle Iroh coming in last minute to help Aang and Katara escape, was based on who each character was.
That is true.
Nothing was out of place. The same idea plays out in Beauty and the Beast. Gaston's last fight with the Beast is about arrogance. Gaston believes he is superior and that confidence colors everything he does. Even when the beast overpowers him and shows mercy, Gaston's pride will not let him accept defeat. He pretends to beg for his life, but the moment the beast turns away, Gaston stabs him in the back. That choice is pure personality. A proud man cannot stand being beaten, so he lashes out in the only way he knows, through treachery.
The deception! The betrayal, man, you deceived me!
And in the end, it costs him his life. Gaston's downfall is the most natural ending possible for a man like him. Now, that is how to write a fight scene, but that's not all. While a person's personality can be consistent, it is also dynamic, meaning our personalities and the way we handle emotions can become worse or better over time. This is necessary to advance the plot. The protagonist is usually on a journey. Therefore, how does this fight push him to the next phase of that journey? There should be markers of progress showing how the characters have evolved over time. In Arcane, the iconic bridge fight between Echo and Jinx proves just that. These two could not be more different at their core. Echo is grounded, relatively careful, and calculating. He's not perfect, but he has become a truly good leader of the Firelights. Jinx, on the other hand, is wild and impulsive, driven by bursts of emotion that spill out as chaos. Where Echo looks for control, Jinx thrives on disorder. Their fight captured that contrast. When they were kids, their battles were playful, with Echo always running out of time before he could win. Now, older, the same game plays out, but the roles have flipped. Jinx is still locked in the past, repeating the same set of moves, while Echo has grown, adapted, and learned to use her patterns against her. His stopwatch is a symbol of growth and memory, showing how he turned their childhood play into a survival advantage. When Echo closes the gap, he wins easily because Jinx had always relied on her explosives and guns. But the moment he has the chance to finish her, he can't. He doesn't see the chaotic villain she has become. He only sees Powder, the friend he grew up with. That hesitation reveals his compassion, his inability to let go of their shared past. Jinx, on the other hand, has no such restraint. She reaches for a grenade, proving how far she's drifted into instability and destruction. But what made the fight stand out was how it showed change. Echo, once the boy who doubted himself, now stood firm with confidence in his skill and his cause. Jinx, once Powder, who longed for connection, now fought as someone consumed by chaos, unable to turn back. This blend of emotion, character history, and choreography is what makes the scene unforgettable. This was probably the best fight in Arcane, and also the moment that defines the show: raw emotion, stunning animation, and storytelling that cuts so deep. Okay, now we've covered the why and the who of how to write a fight scene. The next is the what, and it is important for several reasons. The what covers the realistic and consequential parts of any fight sequence. It asks questions like, what happens when a character receives a heavy blow to the head? And what happens after a brutal fight? A fight should not look like two indestructible action figures smashing into each other for as long as the creators want. Real fights have limits. Bodies get tired, adrenaline wears off, and injuries change the way people move. When characters ignore these truths, a fight can feel empty and disconnected from reality. That is why the best fights in movies show pauses, however brief, where characters catch their breath or hesitate. These moments make the action believable and create space for emotion and dialogue. In Arcane, Vi's fight against Civica is a clear example. Vi begins with a burst of determination by landing an unexpected kick on Civica's jaw. But but halfway through, she slows. She takes heavy blows, gasps for air, and even pauses long enough to stare her enemy down before pushing forward again. That pause is important. It shows fatigue, but it also reveals her stubborn will to keep fighting despite exhaustion. The break in rhythm gives the audience a moment to feel the weight of the struggle, instead of watching a blur of endless punches. But these pauses are not used for rest alone. Sometimes it feels realistic to throw in a little bit of dialogue, to add a psychological layer to the fight. This is where the verbal taunts and confrontations come in. In Samurai Jack, many of his duels with Aku begin with silence, then brief exchanges of sharp words. Talking is as much a weapon as the sword, because it creates tension and unsettles the opponent. It's also usually funny.
Because that you knew that I knew that you knew that I knew you would cheat.
Nevertheless, beyond the physical toll, a great fight scene also uses its environment to add tension and increase the stakes. The setting is an active part of the conflict. It creates obstacles and imbalances that make the fight more difficult and unpredictable. This was seen a lot in the original Avatar series. Waterbenders are at their ultimate best in the North Pole, and even better when the moon is out. So, from the point of view of the Fire Nation, the stakes were higher for them as they planned their invasion. This is why Admiral Zhao decided to kill the white koi fish, therefore rendering the waterbenders useless. Basically, obstacles are extremely necessary for every fight sequence because real life is filled with a lot of obstacles that humans have to overcome. It can be your environment, but it can also be an imbalance, such as one character being armed while the other is not, or a veteran fighter against a rookie. The fight scene in Kung Fu Panda between Master Shifu and Tai Lung is another classic example. Shifu, a master fighter with decades of experience, goes up against his former student, who is more powerful and ruthless than he is. The fight is about Shifu facing the consequences of his past mistakes. He's emotionally and physically outmatched, and the obstacles he faces are a direct result of his own failures. This makes the fight more tragic and intense, and it adds a layer of depth that a simple power struggle would never have.
What I ever did, I did to make you proud! How proud you are, Shifu!
These obstacles and moments of realism are equally crucial because they lead to real, lasting consequences.
There will be consequences.
Resulting in questions such as, what is the aftermath of the fight? Did a character die? If they survived, what do they look like now? What are the emotional and physical consequences of the fight? This consequence can be reflected in how severe their injuries are, and if the movie hasn't ended yet, this injury should play into the next fight scene. It would be more realistic and serve to increase the stakes some more. One of the best examples of this is the ending of Season 2 of Avatar. After Katara manages to escape with Aang, following Azula's deadly strike, the real story begins. Aang is grievously injured and even dead for a short period, until Katara brings him back to life with the special spirit water. The result is that he loses his ability to access the Avatar state and is in a coma-like state for weeks. This single event sets up the entire plot for Season 3. The world believes the Avatar is dead, leaving the Fire Nation free to conquer without fear. This consequence raises the stakes for every character. The fight created a new reality that the heroes had to navigate. It showed that every action, every injury, has a ripple effect that changes the world of the story. The injury Aang sustains is a reminder that the world is a dangerous place and that the characters' choices have real-world consequences. It's a fight that never truly ends, because its impact continues to shape the story long after the final blow is dealt. Realism in fight scenes is about grounding spectacle in truths that the audience can recognize. Bodies tire, injuries matter, environments press in, and victories carry costs. When animators and writers respect those truths, the result is a fight that feels alive. So we know the why, the who, and the what. But there's one other piece you need to complete the equation. This is another thing the 2010 Avatar movie lacked. Check out this crap. This excessively slow and uninteresting action sequence is what characterizes most fight scenes in the movie. Just to make a simple action such as lifting a rock, characters had to go through elaborate movements, which led to an awkward and annoying choreography at the end. This is exactly what we want to talk about now. Beyond who wins or loses, a fight scene is also about rhythm and flow, the way the sequence carries itself from the first strike to the last. When done well, it looks like a dance. Both sides prepare, both sides bring in skills, and each tries to outmaneuver the other in a way that is fluid and realistic. The rhythm comes from how the fight begins, how it builds in the middle, and how it resolves at the end. Every good fight has this three-part structure, even if the audience does not notice it directly. The structure gives shape to the chaos, and without it, the scene would feel awkward, as we just saw. Choreography is one of the most important tools here. The moves are steps of a performance that have to feel both believable and meaningful. In Kung Fu Panda, Po's training under Master Shifu is framed like a dance. At first, he's clumsy and out of rhythm, but as he begins to understand the flow, the audience sees a real pattern take shape. When he finally faces Tai Lung, the choreography is playful but sharp, each move tied to Po's personality. The fight works because it has rhythm. Po's improvisation, using his size, and Tai Lung's precise martial arts combine into a back-and-forth exchange that feels as coordinated as a dance battle. Special moves and unique techniques are another part of what makes the rhythm stand out. They act like a dancer's signature step, the move that the audience waits for and remembers afterward. In Avatar, directing lightning is one of those moves. Zuko could not use it when we first met him. He had to earn it through his training with Uncle Iroh, which gave him the confidence to face Azula in the last Agni Kai of the show. He even taunts her, pointing out that she's afraid to use lightning because she knows he can now redirect it.
No lightning today? What's the matter? Afraid I'll redirect it?
This moment is a high point in the rhythm of their fight, where the audience feels the stakes shift. But the writers do not let it stay simple. Azula adapts by aiming the lightning at Katara, who has no way of dealing with such an attack. Zuko's confidence suddenly turns into panic, and the rhythm changes completely. His decision to leap in front of Katara and take the strike for her is the climax of the entire sequence. The rhythm of the fight ends with character growth, showing Zuko's transformation from selfish prince to protector willing to risk his life for someone else. This idea of a turning point is key in almost every great fight. The best fights have peaks, valleys, and moments where the outcome feels like it could flip at any second. In the last episode of Arcane Season 2, when the Noxian forces surround Piltover's defenders, the rhythm of the battle is one-sided. Mbessa has Caitlyn and Mel cornered, and the defenders look hopeless. Then Jinx and Echo arrive together, making one of the most memorable entrances in animation history. That moment is the pivot, the sudden burst of energy that turns despair into hope. The rhythm shifts from a slow, crushing defeat to a sudden, explosive counterattack. The choreography matches this too. Echo fights with careful precision, while Jinx brings chaos, and together, their contrasting styles create a fresh surge in the sequence that reinvigorates the audience as much as the characters on screen. Cinematic choices also play a major role in rhythm. How the camera moves, when it cuts, and how space is used all affect how the audience feels the flow. Arcane often uses quick cuts and close shots to create a chaotic, frantic energy. Vi's punches against Savika feel brutal because the cuts are sharp, the camera shakes slightly, and the sound design hits with weight. These are choices that shape the rhythm of the fight, deciding whether it feels graceful, brutal, or desperate. However, just like a dance, a fight must come to an end. Regardless of who wins or loses, it has to bring closure to the rhythm. In Avatar, when Azula finally loses to Katara in their duel during the finale, the fight ends with Azula chained and broken. The rhythm has slowed completely. Her flames, once wild and terrifying, fizzle into a sobbing breakdown. The choreography stops being about flashy moves and becomes about stillness. That ending gives weight to everything that came before, reminding the audience that the rhythm of a fight is about when and how it finally comes to a stop. Thinking of fights as dances helps to understand why they feel so powerful when done well. Both rely on rhythm, flow, special moves, and the interaction between partners. Both use preparation, improvisation, and a final flourish to leave an impression. When animators and writers treat fight scenes this way, they avoid randomness and instead create sequences that live inside the world of the story. Every movement belongs, every pause has meaning, and the final step lands with purpose. Remember we spoke about dialogue between fight scenes earlier? Well, in case you're wondering how to write good dialogue, especially for your villains, check out this video here.